Hey party people. In this video, I will be reviewing the Winsor Newton pigment markers, and I will be testing them on the Winsor Newton pigment marker paper, the paper they make specifically for these markers. I figure, optimum settings, optimum results, and whatnot. And I did pull out some of my Winsor Newton Pro markers, the regular ones, the alcohol-based ones, and the Winsor Newton like regular marker paper, just to do a couple of comparisons. This is what the marker looks like, chisel tip. The thing I don't like about the packaging is it's a round barrel, and there's nothing that stops it from rolling around all over the place. Like Copics, they're either square or they're oval. Prismacolors and even the Winsor Newton Pro markers, they have a little plastic thingy that sticks out of the cap that stops it from rolling around all over the place, but the pigment markers don't have that, and it's pretty annoying. I bought a bunch of these when I was in New York back in December, and then I had heard that the point of these markers, or one of the selling points, was that you could blend colors that were not similar. Like usually when you're working with markers, you can blend, light green with a slightly darker green and things like that, and you build up these gradients. But these pigment markers, you were supposedly able to, blend yellow and blue together and get a gradient and things like that. So I went ahead and picked up some other colors very different from the greens that I bought in New York. And so this is the regular Winsor Newton Pro Marker paper, just for comparison's sake, 20-pound marker paper. And then, so I haven't even opened some of these markers or this paper yet. This is specifically for the pigment markers. I did hear, however, that the right side, the correct side of the pigment marker paper, is the same as or very similar to the wrong side of most other marker papers. Like it's super slick and shiny and doesn't absorb ink, and that you could use the wrong side of regular marker paper in lieu of buying this whole extra pad. So I'm going to test that out. Like I bought this pad specifically for this review video, but I do want to test the back of the other paper to see if they're similar. Another selling point of these markers was that they have a colorless blender and they also have a white blender. So I got one of each so that I could test them both out. And, I liken it to watercolors where, both water, clear stuff like the colorless blender, and white will lighten colors, but in completely different ways, right? So I got both the blenders, and we're going to play with both of them and see what happens. I'm expecting it to be kind of like watercolor, where when you add the white, it definitely lightens the color, but in a more milky way. And then the colorless blender, just more lifting color up. But you can see, in the tips here, the white blender tip has that white opaque ink. You can kind of see it. For those of you who are new to my channel, I just want to show you the kind of marker work that I do, because that's how I'm going to be testing them. Like 99% of what I do is drawing people wearing clothes. And I'm a designer before I'm an illustrator. And so I strive for accuracy and clear design communication more than, loose personal expression. Which I'm not putting down. I'm just saying that's not the kind of marker that I am. Color matching is important to me. Precision is important to me. And even when I'm doing watercolor or gouache work like this illustration or this other demo, I'm still focusing on clarity of design communication with my drawing and painting media. So that's kind of the goal of testing, to see if I can do the same kind of work with these markers. Okay, because that's what I do, you know? And so here I am. I like to test both sides of the paper whenever I use new marker paper. That's why I have the sides folded up there. And you can see that the color changes depending on the side of paper you use, and how things blend out or don't blend out depending on what side of the paper you use. So PMP, pigment marker paper, RMP, regular marker paper. And I think the rumors are true. Just simply swatching, I can see that the back of the regular marker paper behaves like the front of the pigment marker paper. So the right side of the pigment marker paper dries the slowest. You saw how it started streaking when I tested them with my finger. And now let's start blending some of these colors together. Just to start, I'm going to pick two greens that are similar. When I first bought the green markers in New York, okay, I bought the pigment markers not knowing anything about them, not even heard of them. And usually when I buy markers, I buy a few of the same color family so that I can layer and blend them together so that I can create shadow tones of the base color, etc., etc. And that's why I had bought several greens kind of in the same shade family. And so I'm playing with that and I'm trying to blend using the colorless blender. And I got really frustrated here because I couldn't get rid of the streaks no matter what I did. And so it was all wet and sitting on the surface of the paper. So I just took my finger and started smudging. And I actually like that effect a lot. Now, as you can see, I am really struggling with cleaning the tip of my colorless blender. I'm still seeing a lot of green. But yeah, like the ink sitting on the top of the paper and it not drying very fast at all. I'm doing all these cool blends with the tip of my finger. Now, this is a Pro Marker, regular one, and I can do similar things with the Pro Marker on this very non-absorbent paper, but the effect is not quite the same. It doesn't blend as easily, as nicely. Now, the whole time I'm thinking this is like the blending looks cool and it could be really fun to work with, but how am I going to deal with fabric color matching? Because the color is, when you blend it out, the color is way lighter than, the original color when you test it or the color indicator on the label. I'm just going to do a quick bleed test. I don't think these bleed at all because bleeding happens when the paper absorbs the ink at all, and this is not absorbing. But anytime I want to check bleeding, I just draw a line on the paper with a pencil, and I take my marker and I draw right up to the edge and see as the marker ink dries if it passes the pencil line because it's bleeding. Right? And this marker does not bleed. It was doing this weird thing where only half the marker tip was depositing ink, but after a few tries, it just kind of starts flowing. So yeah, so look at this nice green and yellow little gradient I created, blending them with my finger. See, that kind of effect looks really cool. And at this stage, I'm kind of thinking like they work like an inky version of soft pastels. Okay, if you watched my Perfectionism is Stupid 3 video where I reveal my messy stress drawings, where I grab some soft pastels and I get super messy with them as kind of a stress relief measure. I'm not very good with soft pastels. I just do it for funsies. This kind of reminds me of that, where you just lay down color and you start smudging and blending with your fingers, and it's very tactile and fun. But with the 97% of the work that I do with marker, I need precision. I need to match colors. I need to get a smooth result without having to blend things out with my finger, which again changes the color. And I need things to be fast. Okay, I much prefer the look of paint, watercolor, gouache. And so when I'm using marker, it means it's because I want to work fast. And if I have a kind of marker that's not going to allow me to work fast, I'm really not going to reach for it. So here I am testing it out with the white blender. And again, I can't get the streakiness out. And that bothers me. So now I'm just blending it with my finger, which makes for a really nice soft brown thing. But I mean, honestly, it's really going to be about what you use these markers for. And this is not the kind of thing that I need. So let's try to draw a garment. Here's a little skirt with a little drape in it using the red marker. The white is still not clean from my brown experiment, so I'm adding a little bit of brown to that, adding some white to that, see if that'll blend together. And no, I just made a huge mess. This kind of reminds me of when people tell me that I can take my brush pens and like color my palette to deposit some of the ink and then mix colors together and pick it up with a brush. And I know that you can do that, but y'all, I'm in the business of working fast, okay? Even when I'm painting, which takes longer than other things, I am always using techniques that will speed up the illustration process. And that is also a reason why I don't do a whole lot of color pencil work as my main medium. I use color pencil mainly for detail work and texture work because using color pencil to fill in large spaces takes a really long time. And so I admire color pencil work, but I just don't do it because it takes forever. And so if I need to use a method that takes a long time to get an effect, I'm just not going to reach for it. Okay, that's why I like markers. That's why I like watercolor. It dries really fast, and I know how to work with it very quickly without having to bend over backwards. You know, it's pretty straightforward. So yeah, I have all this like color ink in my white marker now that I'm using to color these other things, and I don't know. I keep trying. You can't say I didn't try, but none of my cylinders look very good at all. And I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's a learning curve, but I've been using markers for a really long time. And now I'm trying it on the back of the paper, and it really does not work. So don't do that. That is not a good effect. I just think that there should be some similarity, like when I picked up brush pens. There was enough similarity to both watercolor and marker that I was able to pick up the gist of it fairly quickly. I'm not great at it yet, but I feel like I'm on the right track. With this, you know, dicking around for the better part of an hour, I still feel like I don't really know what the hell is going on. This is going a little bit okay, going back and forth with the yellow and the yellow-green, but it's still pretty streaky. Less streaky just because it's such a light color that the streaks just aren't showing up as much as the darker colors. But we're going to keep trying. We're going to test these out, okay? So I am drawing a little figure on the back of the marker paper. If you've watched any of my marker tutorials, then you know that I like to draw on the wrong side of the marker paper and render on the right side so that I'm minimizing pencil smearing. Okay, so I'm drawing a little figure on the back side of the marker paper so that I can try to put together a marker rendering of a garment on a body. So I'm just Putting that together really quick. I decided to put in the pleats instead of the big ruffle because I want to see how much it smears. I want to see the marker smearing with the paper, the pencil. I could see how maybe this technique would be nice for maybe more slightly larger scale fashion illustrations where I had more room to maneuver blending. But if I'm doing, like design croquis size, 10 inches tall figures, there's not a lot of room for maneuvering. You could do some cool blending things, and now I'm clearly overworking it because I got excited that it wasn't looking like the worst thing ever. I mean, the brown is not the best shadow color. I'm just kind of playing with the shadowing and the shadow placement and the blending. And let's see if we can make some other color gradients happen. I got this olivey color, and I think they call it Indian red. It's like a brown color. And so, yeah, I'm blending it. Again, you can't really make the gradients happen without blending with like a blending stump or with your finger because you see the streaking. And if someone knows how to like work around the streaking without blending it out with a finger or a blending stump, please feel free to school me in the comments. So, I mean, this is the kind of this is the kind of thing I would do with soft pastels, is do these like, gesture drawings. And look, when you just do line work, it dries really fast. And for this kind of thing, it's fun. Like it flows really smoothly when I'm doing line drawing. And now I'm going to try to fill it in and do something again with it because I can't give up yet. So let's try to blend this out with the white. Yeah, I mean, this is going to work for someone who wants this kind of loose expressiveness, okay? This kind of, it's loose, it's expressive. You can really show off your line quality, the kind of stroke you like to use, very abstract expressionist, making your mark very clear and obvious instead of doing a lot of blending. So, you could do a lot of fun things like that. I'm just going to really quick do a similar sketch with the regular Winsor Newton Pro markers on the same paper, just for comparison's sake. I think I actually like the look of the Pro markers on this paper better than the Pigment markers. I mean, it still blends. It's that waxy surface that allows you to move the ink around. And, I never really explored the back of the paper too much before. So I wrote that hello there and I let it dry. It was dry when I first put down the yellow. But the yellow reactivates the ink somewhat and it starts picking up the brown again, as you can see. Okay. So layering, you're going to have to be super careful with that. Or you're going to have to let things dry like 827% if you are trying to layer. Or it's very good for you if you're the kind of person who wants to pick up and resuscitate ink in that way. So now I'm testing using different Fineliners. So I'm using these Hakura Microns and the Staedtler Fineliners, two brands I use quite often. Because I know, I like outlining and underdrawing with pencil and sometimes with color pencil. Ooh, I should have done this also with color pencil, but whatever. And, some people like Fineliners. Okay, here I am trying to pick up some of the stuff with a colorless blender because I can't leave well enough alone. I actually kind of like that kind of streaky weirdness. While I'm trying to let the fine liner dry, I'm just messing around. But yeah, these blenders, they take an awful lot to clean out. Just FYI, you're going to be wasting a lot of the ink in there trying to clean the nib out before you move on to the next color. Now, because it's ink on ink, I don't know, the markers are really picking up the fine liner. it didn't smear the pencil that badly, but it really, like, see, it's dry. The fine liner is dry, but it picks it up and smears it around again. So if you use fine liner on top, like, make sure you're 100% done with that marker work, because if you go in, you're going to start smearing if you go in with ink again. All right, those are my thoughts on the Winsor Newton pigment markers. Final assessment. This is not something that I would use for design communication sketches where color matching and accuracy and precision and working very quickly are big factors. These markers can be very fun for just playing around, okay? This can be a fun replacement for my soft pastels when I just want to mess around and relieve stress and do some fun drawings where I'm not super, invested in the outcome. So there's that. If you are an artist who is more into loose personal expression and showing stroke, this can be an excellent medium for you to play with. I would say that, yeah, you can play around with the backside of your regular marker paper before investing in the specific pigment paper. Okay, so try that out first. Okay, so I hope this video was helpful. Please give me a thumbs up if it was helpful. Please like this video if you would like more product reviews from me in the future, and I will see you in the next video.